I'm now delighted to welcome to the show the football analyst Jasmine Baba. Morning, Jasmine. How are things?
All good here. How about yourselves?
All good. Thank you very much for joining us as per usual. We spoke a little bit about Jude Bellingham on the show last week between ourselves, and we decided we wanted to dive a little deep into the man himself. I guess first of all, what's the talk that you're hearing at the moment over in Germany? Because he's still involved. He scored a couple of goals for Dortmund over Wolfsburg at the weekend. 6-0 win, still firmly in the Bundesliga title race. So that moved them to within a point of Bayern Munich at the top of the table. But are you hearing Real Madrid? Are you hearing Man City? It seems to be the Bernabeu that all the talk is for at the moment for Bellingham's future.
Yeah, and the last few weeks especially has been fully Real Madrid. It started off with Manchester City, the rumours, but that's sort of died down now. And the last few weeks just been solely Manchester City. All media outlets expect Jude Bellingham to leave this summer. I think that's a given. News this morning is that he's rejected another contract offer from Dortmund, an improved contract, and it would be a record for Dortmund offering such a thing. So I think it would have taken him to 2026 and something around a 14 million sum on top. So morning reports are that he's rejected that. All the reporting comes from mainly Marsa's side, which kind of match up. I'm not sure if the information's the same on German outlets or if it's their own knowledge, but yes, the last few weeks has been fully Real Madrid.
All right, so that sounds like he's certainly edging towards a move, and Spain seems to be the likely destination. A lot of Irish football fans would have seen plenty of Jude Bellingham in terms of England international level at the World Cup and what have you. Might have seen too much of him at Birmingham City before he left. He was so young when he was leaving. But what type of midfielder would you describe Jude Bellingham as, Jasmine?
So many people have him down as a box-to-box midfielder, but I don't think that strictly covers what he's good at or specifically good at, because he's good at many things, and doesn't strictly cover what he does. Box-to-box, it normally focuses on both parts of the game, both in possession and out possession. And while Jude Bellingham's a good all-rounder in both phases of the game, he is definitely more suited to the attacking attributes. So if anyone saw any highlights from the weekend, his two goals is specifically kind of highlighted what he's really, really good at doing, what he seems to excel at, and why everyone's excited about this 19-year-old. Because as you said, he was very young at Birmingham City. He is still 19. And it's quite crazy how mature he can play. So the attributes is, even though he gets played as a more six role, like a pivot, which just stays in front of the back four in the formation 4-2-3-1 that Dortmund uses. So there's two pivots and they push him slightly further up rather than the one that guards the defense. And that suits him a lot more. So it's more of a 8 role, so further attacking midfielder. And I don't think he can be a single defensive midfielder just because of the qualities I've just mentioned. He is better in attack. And so we kind of quote him more, especially in scouting. We give him a profile of a central creator, someone who roams in the more attacking spaces and can help lay off balls for his teammates. And he's both, his attributes can also tend to help him in like the attacking phases of the game for both himself and his teammates. So he is good at receiving the ball in between the opponent's lines and in their formation. He can dribble, he can pass, and he knows how to progress the ball and create passing solutions for his teammates. And he's one of the best in the league in his position in doing this. And what's really, really great, and what's really something we don't see, especially in under 23 levels, is someone who's both good technically, efficiently, but also suits the more direct phases of play. So if he needs to lay off a quick pass, find that quick space, he can do that. And he can use flair or he can keep it simple. And the fact is a lot like Musiala in the same league, even though they play different roles, they are so mature in finding these solutions and kind of knowing how the game is run. It's why they are so sought after and so have been given these accolades. They run around teams, and for Jude Bellingham, he's the second highest scorer in that Dortmund team. He has 7 goals and 4 assists. No one in that team has more than 8 goals at the moment. So that is why he is so sought after, to show that kind of maturity in the way that he plays and how good he is in those attacking spaces as an 8 or as a 10, so even further in attacking midfield. And that is why he is just really one of a kind at the moment. And yeah, that's why he's got such a huge price tag on him for a 19-year-old.
Yeah, definitely some traits in that position that Madrid, I'm sure, would go for as well. There's like a temptation here, Jasmine, to make the Sancho comparisons. Like, they're different players, clearly, a different age profile, but obviously he did leave the club with major expectations that hasn't worked out at United. What is your sense then of how prepared Jude Bellingham is to make what would be a significant step up to the likes of Madrid?
I think Real Madrid are a little bit more clever in terms of knowing how they play and how kind of persistent they can be in what they're good at, whereas Manchester United for Jadon Sancho has been in a little bit of a transition period. Only really Erik ten Hag has really laid down some groundwork for someone like Jadon Sancho to really improve. And I think someone like Real Madrid or Man City, because I can't rule Man City out, of course, they both have that groundwork, that foundation for someone like Bellingham to come in and for them to fit straight away or to improve straight away. And they know what kind of football that they're playing, especially both of them, basically, a lot more than Manchester United had been. So I think that is a definite advantage for Jude Bellingham and the way he can make that step up. There had been some reports as well that Jude Bellingham wouldn't want to go back to England, or at least not yet. So I wonder if there is something like that kind of unease and transition zones at some clubs that he wouldn't want to go in at the moment and would rather a move to Spain where he can really develop, especially more of the technical skill that he doesn't lack. Because if I say the word lack, it sounds like he's not good at, but his more direct skills is better than his technical skills at the moment. And I think in Spain, he is ready to take on that role of learning technicality and using that to his advantage. So I think he, first of all, as a player, is in a better space to make that big jump, but also the clubs that are apparently interested in him have a better foundation for him to actually grow.
Yeah, I know there was a lot of, reading The Athletic during the week, there was a lot of chat that from the Manchester side that a lot of the links with Madrid had come up at a very timely fashion from the Spanish press, and that this is not something that's unique. So, but I mean, I think you at the very top said that he'd turned down another contract offer from Dortmund. So, and there are very few clubs in the world that could afford him. So that would seem to be likely one or the other of those. Can I just ask you one last one on Sancho, Jasmine? I don't know if you had any information about it, but I had seen that there had been links, because it hasn't been working out for United, that potentially he could go back to Dortmund. Is there any? Have you heard anything about that?
I have not heard anything about that, but the Jude Bellingham news this morning was very, very fresh. So it could be a possibility that I've just not seen it, but I've not seen anything to see that at the moment. Doesn't mean it's not true, but yeah, not seen that.
Jasmine, I'm curious, how would, let's just hypothetically say Real Madrid is the club that he signs for, and that appears to be the favourite at the moment. How does Jude Bellingham fit into that Real Madrid midfield in particular? Because you look at the talented young players that Carlo Ancelotti has built. He's Vinicius, Rodrigo, Camavinga, Tchouaméni, Valverde. I'd imagine, like you say, he can play in the number 6. I don't think Bellingham is going to be seen at Madrid as a Casemiro long-term replacement necessarily, but how do you think he fits in there? Because the talk is that Modric is about to sign a new contract potentially as well. You have Toni Kroos as well there, so he has options, Ancelotti, but how do you see him fitting into that midfield?
I'm not quite sure, and that's only the kind of problem that I've seen, like where positionally he would fit. As you said, he's not that kind of six as a single pivot, single central defensive midfielder. He does not have the same kind of tackling rates. Even though he's good at ground duels and interceptions, he's not that kind of player. And I think you would really waste his attacking talent if you tried to keep him back. So maybe more of a replacement of Modric, someone who comes in a little bit more. He will have to be patient if Kroos and Modric is still there and still the better players, but look at their older ages, look at the ages that they're pushing, still world-class players, obviously, but you do need to focus on that kind of 18 up to 26 roles. So he is a lot better at bringing a direct and vertical element to Real Madrid's game, and his qualities in accelerating attacks are amazing. And not only Real Madrid, I think Man City would also benefit from that. So, and he's also really experienced while being very young. So there's absolutely so much years he can bring to someone like Real Madrid in that kind of attacking midfield role that he could probably become a legend there if he stays long enough. So, someone maybe to come in for Modric, more of an 8-10 role, and someone who brings in fast and vertical attacks for Real Madrid.
Yeah, as you say, he certainly could become a legend there, because he's away from, look, there's pressure being a Galactico as well, but he's away from the pressure of the English media, as you say, and maybe that's playing on his mind as to why he doesn't want to go back to England just yet, or to Manchester City. Like, you can imagine Tchouaméni in that number 6 role, and a little bit of freedom that might give Bellingham ahead of him. Maybe Bellingham and Modric are both in the same team together. It's hard to know, but certainly he seems to be such a dynamic player, Jude Bellingham, and as you say, he's got the flair, but he can also play it simple. So he's one of those players that a manager like Carlo Ancelotti can turn to in a number of different roles and in a number of different games.
Yeah, and to be honest, that's how he has been used across around the last 2 seasons at Dortmund. Under Marco Rose, he played all sorts of roles, and that actually caused some tension between Gareth Southgate and Jude Bellingham, because Gareth Southgate was saying, we don't know what his position really is, even though I think that was a bit harsh, because as a young player, especially under 21, you just want those players to play and get game experience. But yeah, as a 10, as an 8, I think he favours more, and I think it suits his attributes more. He's also really good at things like, especially from the weekend, his first goal was quite bizarre, but it showed off his talent in his kind of mid to long range shooting, as well as his second goal, which shows him how clever he is at working the space and getting into the space and arriving into the box. So yeah, I think even though he's been played as a 6, he's been played as an 8 and a 10, he suits those latter, more attacking roles.
Yeah, brilliant footballer that we'll certainly keep a close eye on in the intervening and following years. Jasmine, brilliant stuff as always. Thanks a million for your insight.
Thank you.
Lovely stuff. Football analyst Jasmine Baba there joining us on this Tuesday morning's OTB.